I pulled out my black card, ready to fund Sean Shun's tuition. The once youthful him suddenly turned cold and aloof. Bullet comments scrolled frantically before my eyes. The male lead had been reborn, returning to the very beginning. In this life, he could finally fulfill the regrets of his past with his childhood sweetheart. If it weren't for the female antagonist flaunting her wealth and standing between the leads in their previous life, how could they have missed a lifetime together? Looking up, I met Sean Shun's abruptly icy gaze. Only when he looked at his childhood sweetheart did his eyes inexplicably redden. Oh dear, the male lead had been reborn at 18, penniless and down to his last dime. Standing somewhat close to Sean, I could clearly sense the shift in his aura. It was the elegance cultivated by long-term wealth, something utterly impossible for a poor young man to possess. He glanced disdainfully at the black card in my hand. His tone detached. I told you, I'll find a way to pay my own tuition. I don't need you insulting my dignity with your money. With that, he stepped right past me and pulled Su Meow Meow, who was glaring daggers at me, into his arms. He held her so tightly, as if clutching a lost treasure finally reclaimed. Meow Meow, after all this time, I've come to realize you are the one I love most in this lifetime. Whispers of awe and surprise rippled through the crowd. Before my eyes, the barrage of comments scrolled faster and denser. Ah, the male lead is so bold, confessing to his childhood sweetheart the moment he's reborn. Exactly. No beating around the bush at all. The villainess must be stunned now. In his past life, the male lead only accepted her black card and agreed to be with her for tuition money. Now that he's back, no amount of money will work on him. I rubbed my eyes, staring at the scrolling subtitles that had appeared out of nowhere. Piece by piece, the truth began to form in my mind. I am the supporting female character they're talking about. The vicious young miss who used money to force the male lead into a relationship. The Sean Shin before me had been reborn. In his past life, I fell for him at first sight upon entering university. Learning he couldn't afford tuition, I offer my black card to cover all his expenses for 4 years, and propose that we be together. After much internal struggle, Sean finally clutched the black card and agreed in humiliation, burying his long-time childhood crushed deep in his heart. He was convinced that I had torn apart his love with Mia Su and despised my spoiled young mistemperament. Insecure and overly sensitive, he saw himself as inferior in love, devoid of any dignity, yet accustomed to a life of wealth. He didn't want to lose me, his cash cow. In the second year after graduation, news of Mia Su's marriage unleashed the love he had suppressed for years. Shan, frantic with urgency, drove to his childhood sweetheart's wedding, intent on a dramatic rescue. But on the way, distracted, he collided with a truck and died on the spot. Reborn, his first act was to confess the love he never voiced in his past life to his childhood sweetheart, to mend the regrets of his previous existence. I frowned slightly. What the comments said did align with my proud and arrogant nature. But as they said, Sean Shin took so much money from me, and after graduation, I even introduced him to connections to start a company. What's wrong with him being a bit subservient to me, the young miss? What's wrong with him being a bit more obedient to me, the young miss? Isn't that how it should be? Does he really think he can freeload with arrogance and swallow the Jiang family's fortune? I sneered coldly and decisively tossed the black card to a passing guy, Sean Shun, who said I was going to fund your tuition. The person I want to give it to is clearly him. Hey, handsome, want to be my boyfriend? What's going on? Did I miss something earlier? Why did she give the black card to someone else? That guy, even if you take the black card, it's useless. The female lead only has eyes for the male lead. She won't even glance at anyone else in this lifetime. Just a retreat to advanced tactic. Well, the male lead isn't falling for that move. Sean Shin stiffened. Having just been reborn, his eyes held a mix of disbelief and confusion, as if he hadn't yet realized that the plot of his life had diverged slightly from the last. But with my beloved right before my eyes, the fear of death and the joy of rebirth were still crashing through my mind, leaving no room for second thoughts. I enthusiastically invited this handsome guy to join me for a meal. It was still early in the semester, and I wasn't very familiar with the faces around me. As for Shanshan, I'd only overheard classmates whispering that he still hadn't scraped together his tuition. That's why I kindly pulled out my black card, wondering if we could become a couple. After all, his chiseled features hit all the right notes for me, making me lose my head and all rational thought. Perhaps, in a past life, I truly loved Shanshan, but in this life, love was strangled in the cradle before it even had a chance to begin. I have plenty of money. I'm the only daughter of the Jiang family, the wealthiest in the city, the young miss who's never had to endure a single hardship. Why hang myself on one crooked tree? Love is love, no matter who it's with. This handsome guy holding the black card, his face appeals to my taste just as much. I chose the most upscale restaurant near the school, frowned while flipping through the menu, then tossed it to the waiter. Bring us every signature dish you have. The waiter scurried away cheerfully. The hotel doors swung open, drawing everyone's attention. I glanced back. It was the Reborn male lead, arm in arm with his beloved childhood sweetheart. Shanshan from the previous life was truly well, nourished by wealth. Whether in dining etiquette or posture, not a single flaw could be found, completely embodying the demeanor of a wealthy young master. He kept glancing my way occasionally, the disdain and irritation in his eyes barely contained, as if convinced my presence here was just a wait for a chance to hit on him, unable to shake me off no matter what, even more convinced that dining with another guy was just to make him jealous. Shanshan sat upright, casually ordering 7 or 8 signature dishes from the menu, then said with deep affection, "Meow meow, the food here is just average. Please bear with it for this meal. When I have time, I'll definitely take you to try the finest air, fresh seafood. Then I'll take you to luxury boutiques to pick up some of the latest seasonal outfits." Mia Su felt like a pie had fallen from the sky and hit her face. So lucky, she nearly fainted. She shot me a smug glance and raised her voice. "Brother Sean, today is the first day of our relationship, and I have a gift I've been preparing for a long time to give you." Her face was beaming with a boastful expression. The bullet comments said that Mia Su and Shanshan were childhood sweethearts, just waiting to confess and fall in love naturally after getting into university together. When I pulled out the black card, Mia Su was so furious she nearly gritted her teeth to dust. The way she looked at me was exactly like I was the other woman stealing her love. But in my past life, when Sean agreed to be my boyfriend, he never mentioned Mia Su's existence. Did he? Mia Su mysteriously pulled out a simple box. A look of excitement flashed across Shanshan's face. The bullet comments were also screaming wildly. "Oh my god, the first meeting between the male and female leads after their rebirth is so sweet. The progress is incredibly fast. So fast that I can barely keep up with their pace. Guess what's inside this box?" I remember in their past life, Jia Jiang gave the male lead a luxury watch worth over $1 million. Even though the female lead isn't as wealthy as the villainess now, her gift is definitely heartfelt. The box felt almost weightless in his palm. Shanshan opened it with eager anticipation. Inside lay a small jar of folded paper stars. Mia Su blinked and said, "Sean, I folded these specially over the summer, waiting for the day we got into the same university so I could confess and give them to you. Every strip of paper used to fold these stars has 'I love you' written on it. So, do you like it?" The once lively barrage of comments fell silent. If I didn't know Sean had been reborn, I might have thought he'd adore this gift too. Perhaps, to an 18-year-old Sean, this jar of paper stars would have been a rare and precious token of affection. Youthful and beautiful, yet beneath his youthful appearance resided the reborn soul of a 24-year-old. This 24-year-old had grown accustomed to delicacies, luxury watches, and high-end cars. Luxury goods flowed into his hands like an endless river, all too familiar. Even just a few hours earlier, Shanshan, at the moment of the fatal car crash, had been driving the Maybach from my garage. The soft touch of the genuine leather steering wheel was worlds apart from the rough craftsmanship of the wooden box now in his palm. I smiled, pulling a watch from my bag. It was something I casually bought earlier today while passing a luxury watch store. Since Leo Su here had become my boyfriend, I couldn't play favorites. I slid the elegant watch box toward him. Boyfriend, since today marks our first day together, this is my gift to you. Do you like it? Wait, wasn't this watch originally given to the male lead in the previous life? Why give it to someone else now? The female side character must still be playing hard to get, trying to catch the male lead's attention. Trust me, she won't keep this up for long. Yes, the female supporting character's current actions are completely flustered and self-sabotaging. The luxury watch gleamed brilliantly. Leo Su hadn't yet recovered from the shock of the black card when he was hit with a second surprise. His hand trembled as he reached to touch the watch dial, only to be shouted at by Shan Shen. Don't touch it, but this is clearly my. He swallowed the rest of his words before they could fully escape. I know. What he meant to say was, this watch belonged to him. The bullet comments mentioned that in his past life, he wore this watch for 6 years and adored it deeply. Every night before bed, he would take it off, carefully polish it, and place it back in its box. The past life is different from this one. Now, with his beloved childhood sweetheart by his side, he must have lost interest in such materialistic things. Mia Su scowled and rolled her eyes at me. Think you're so great just because you have money? You reek of disgusting greed. A thoughtless watch can't compare to my heartfelt stars, full of meaning. Sean, don't you agree? Shan Shen finally snapped out of it, forcing a strained smile. Meow Meow is right, rallying his spirits. He was about to serve his beloved childhood friend a dish when his phone suddenly rang. The knockoff phone had poor audio quality. From not far away, I clearly heard a cold female voice from the phone. Mr. Shen, your mother's hospital medical fees are due for renewal. Shan Shen's expression instantly changed. The comments immediately grew anxious. I almost forgot. The male lead's mother is critically ill in the hospital, waiting for life, saving money. I recall in the previous life, the female antagonist directly tossed $1 million at the hospital, and the surgery went smoothly. Oh no, please don't tell me. The male and female leads just met and shared a tiny bit of sweetness. Is the female antagonist going to use the male lead's mother's illness to blackmail him into being with her again? Why does the female antagonist always haunt them like a ghost? Crap, the female antagonist is looking toward the male lead. She must think she's found an opening to approach him. I remembered, before pulling out the black card, I overheard a few classmates talking. Shan Shen's mother had been battling cancer for years, draining all the family savings. They were drowning in debt. I quickly turned back to Leo Su. No one in your family is sick, right? No. Shan Shen stood up with a grim expression, about to leave for the hospital, when the server stopped him. Sir, you haven't paid the bill yet. Laughter erupted around them. In his past life, backed by the Jiang family, he could walk into any high-end restaurant where the owner would greet him with flattering smiles. They'd assure him there was no rush to pay, suggesting to settle the tab after multiple visits. He hadn't been reborn for long. His old habits clearly hadn't caught up with reality yet. The server had already printed the bill. 1,280 yuan. Such a paltry sum. Less than half a bottle of the red wine the male lead used to drink in his previous life. Shan Shen instinctively reached for his black card, only to find nothing there. A cold sweat suddenly beading on his forehead. Right, he was 18 again, younger, more naive, and poorer. Right now, he was penniless. Not even the 280 yuan, let alone the change of 80. He had none of it. The server wore a trademark smile. Shan Shen gritted his teeth and spoke awkwardly to Mia Su. Mia, could you cover the meal for now? I'll pay you back later. Mia Su grew wary. Shan, my monthly allowance is only 500 yuan. If I spend 200 on this meal, what am I supposed to do for the rest of the month? Don't worry, I have a way to earn money. What way could you possibly have to earn money? Besides, you said you were treating. Why should I pay? Mia Su muttered under her breath, unwilling to foot the bill. The young male and female leads, who had confessed their feelings less than an hour ago, faced the first bump in their budding romance. I seized the moment, pulled out my card, and called out, "Server." Sean Shun turned away in disgust, as if in the next second, I would cling to him desperately, pestering him relentlessly. After being reborn, he wanted absolutely nothing to do with a spoiled young miss like me. The humiliation from my past life, when I threw money at him, was still vivid in my mind. His tone dripped with deep disgust. "Jie Jiang, how many times must I say it? Can you just stay away from me? I despise your relentless pestering, and I'm even more annoyed by you meddling between Mia and me. Neither I nor my mother need your filthy money." I was astonished by Sean Shun's audacity, even if, as the bullet comment said, I was deeply in love with him in my past life. In this life, we've never been together. The bullet comments appeared just in time. When I heard Sean couldn't afford his tuition, I merely pulled out the black card. I hadn't even uttered a single word about asking him to be my boyfriend. Yet, he preemptively declared his love to his childhood sweetheart. Before this, we hadn't even had any interaction. It was he who despised the person from the previous life, yet the one drowning in memories of his past life, unable to break free, was also him. I let out a cold laugh. I was just signaling the waiter to bring the bill. "Classmate Shun, do you have some sort of delusion? Always convinced that I'm pestering you?" Sean Shun's face turned pale. Only then did he belatedly realize that in this life, we were now practically strangers. The 6 years of entanglement from our previous life had yet to occur. Upon realizing this, he staggered back a step. The live comments grew frantic. "What's going on? Why isn't the female supporting character paying for Mrs. Shin's treatment?" "Exactly. Mrs. Shin has cancer. If she doesn't foot the bill, how will the male lead come up with that astronomical sum?" Mrs. Shun was the only comfort in the male lead's 6 long years of hardship. Watching the scrolling comments, my expression darkened. They referred to these 6 years of me pouring money on Sean Shun as a life of hardship. As Sean Shun's humiliating past, he'd rather not recall. In my past life, after I paid for Sean Shun's mother's medical bills, what I got in return was her private scheming with Sean. "Sean, dear, how can a woman ever dominate a man? Listen to your mother. You must keep all the money in your own hands. Make women live at your mercy. My son is so outstanding and got into a top university. Girls are lining up for you. The Jiang family has only one daughter. Their wealth will eventually belong to our Shun family." Sean Shun nodded obediently, swallowing his pride. Unfortunately, the vast wealth of the Jiang family was not something an outsider like him could ever touch. All he could get was the little I let slip through my fingers. If he obeyed, I'd let a little trickle down. If not, he wouldn't get even a penny. A young miss like me, born into such a family. How could I be foolish enough to hand over the family fortune? Sean Shun gazed at everything the Jiang family had with envy and longing. Yet there was nothing he could do about it. Su Xiaoyu couldn't help but speak up. "Classmate Shun, it's clearly you who's been pestering Jia Jiang all along. She hasn't even acknowledged you, yet you keep putting on this act of being coerced and humiliated. How ridiculous." Sean Shun's face darkened, his tone impatient. "Su, you country bumpkin, how dare you speak to me in that tone? Do you even know who I am?" His voice was low, very much like a domineering CEO, exuding an air of arrogance nurtured by wealth. In his previous life, after his company took off, countless people flattered him, addressing him as President Shun. The more he was called that, the more he became full of himself. But Sean hadn't realized it yet. At this moment, the clothes he was wearing were even worse than Liu Su's. I raised an eyebrow and clapped my hands. "Classmate Shun is right." Liu Su looked at me with a pitiful expression. I gave his outfit a once over, ordinary and cheap, wearing something like that. Of course, he looks like a country bumpkin. Frowning, I waved my hand dismissively, putting on the airs of a young miss. Such shabby clothes. I wouldn't wear them even if they were given to me. "Liu Su, come with me to the mall right now. You're not leaving until we've bought at least 100,000 yuan worth of clothes." We walked out of the mall carrying several shopping bags. Liu Su was stunned once again. He couldn't snap out of it for the longest time. I lazily tossed my long, draped hair. "My boyfriend deserves only the best. Everything I gave Sean Shun in my past life, I won't offer even a shred of it in this one. The live comments were still discussing Sean's current situation. Right now, he's overwhelmed by money troubles, tuition fees, living expenses, his mother's medical bills. If Mia Sue was his only regret in his past life, then in this life, after smoothing over that one regret, 20 new ones surfaced. On the way back to school, I watched the live comments with great relish. Male lead. Don't go looking for the female supporting character. You'll be entangled with her for years again. I'd much rather watch you have a sweet romance with the female lead. The male lead is so pitiful, still being forced back to the female supporting character's side. Who could possibly put up with the young Mrs. spoiled temper? Sigh. Is there really no way to escape the control of the vicious female supporting character, even after rebirth? Scrolling down through the bullet comments, sure enough, I spotted Sean Shun's aloof figure at the dormitory entrance. He seemed to have been waiting for me for quite a while. Upon seeing me, he first offered a bleak smile, then spoke as if resigning himself to fate. Jia Jiang, I've lost. I still can't escape your persistence. Alright then, as long as you give me the black card and promise to rein in that young mistemper of yours, I'm willing to agree to be your boyfriend. As he said these words, an air of despondency hung about him. It seemed like he had mustered tremendous resolve, yet also like he was making a huge concession. His face even showed traces of humiliation and embarrassment. His dignity sure comes at a high price. To think he'd dare presume it could rival my unlimited black card. I smirked mockingly. Never seen someone demand a meal with such audacity. I couldn't resist reminding him. Classmate Shun, may I ask if we even know each other? Sean Shun scoffed. Jia Jiang, no one understands you better than I do. Do you think playing hard to get will make me notice you more? Enough. Just hand over the black card already. My mother's waiting urgently at the hospital. His tone was utterly confident, convinced I would indulge him. In my past life, I stayed with him for 6 years. Without genuine affection, I could never have lasted that long. He'd witness my madness for love, and see my bold, flamboyant displays of devotion. As the favored one, he'd always taken my indulgence for granted. The hospital bills for Sean's mother could no longer be delayed. A mess of debts awaited his financial rescue. Leo Su swiftly stepped in front of me, shattering Sean's arrogance. When did Jia Jiang ever say she wanted you as a boyfriend? The last sentence struck like a bolt from the blue, leaving Sean Shun frozen in place. He stood there dazed for a long moment before suddenly remembering something. The first thing he did after rebirth was confess his feelings to Mia Sue. As for me, I never actually asked him to be my boyfriend or anything like that. The entanglements from our past life haven't happened in this lifetime yet. But soon, Sean shook his head with self-mockery. Those 6 years of entanglement in the previous life were carved into his bones. Every single incident, every detail. He could never believe that I never loved him. He sighed, his tone dripping with unconcealable weariness. Alright, Jia Jiang, I admit confessing to Mia upset you, but my mother's situation really can't wait any longer. Give me the card, and I'll let bygones be bygones. Seeing Sean compromise dejectedly, the live comments erupted with anxiety. The male lead finally got a second chance at life. Why is he getting entangled with the female antagonist again? And so began 6 long years of humiliating existence. But without the female supporting character, the male lead would just be a poor student now. Even if he wanted to start a business, he'd have no seed money. How would he raise funds? I looked at Sean Shun, answering him, and also the live comments. If you're broke, figure it out yourself. If you won't part with a kidney, isn't there always your ass? Sean seemed to have his pride wounded and didn't show up for a whole month. I still remember how he gritted his teeth before leaving that day. Jia Jiang, your young mistemper never changes, and you never realize just how utterly detestable that attitude is. As punishment, cool off on your own. You won't see me for the next month. The reward came too suddenly. It almost felt unreal. We were in the same department but different classes. In such a vast campus, running into someone by chance is incredibly difficult. After Sean disappeared, I started spending more time with Leo Su. He stood quietly outside the dormitory every day, waiting to walk with me to class, even volunteering to fetch water and buy meals for me. But my roommate Pamela stopped him fiercely. "Young master, young miss, you just focus on romance and elegance. This kind of rough work, let this old servant do it for you." Pam Lynn's original name was Pundi Lynn. After getting into university, her family refused to give her a single cent, insisting she marry quickly to get a bride price for her brother's house and car. Stubbornly, Pam changed her name, shouldered her luggage in a woven bag, and embarked on her academic journey alone. On the first day of school, I offered to pay her 200 yuan each time she fetched water and bought meals for me. She hugged me excitedly and cried for a long while, taking on all these tasks without hesitation. I had already put Shan out of my mind. Instead, the bullet comments occasionally updated his recent situation, as if trying to stay relevant. For instance, he was borrowing money everywhere to fill his financial gaps. But how much money could the students around him have? It was merely a drop in the bucket. Far from solving the problem, penniless, he relied on Mia Su to cover his meals. The lover he once regretted not being able to stay with now faced growing friction in their interactions. To save money, Shan, who had never worked a day in his previous life, actually took up a part-time job. Just when I thought I'd never run into Shan again, I unexpectedly encounter him while accompanying Liu Su for a meal at the school cafeteria. I usually only showed up here on weekends. Shan came from Monday to Friday. His weekend job provided meals. We were like two parallel lines that would never intersect. But this weekend, the parallel lines miraculously crossed. Shan, who should have been off campus on the weekend, was sitting properly in the cafeteria. There was a subtle change in his demeanor. Right after his rebirth, he carried an air of refinement nurtured by wealth, with an inexplicable confidence in his every move. Now, all that remained was a face full of exhaustion and anxiety. He had lost weight, looking noticeably thinner. His brow was tightly furrowed with unease. As Liu Su and I walked into the cafeteria hand in hand, fingers interlaced, I spotted Mia Su mysteriously carrying a tray of food, chirping excitedly, "Brother Shan, I managed to grab the best meal in the cafeteria today. Come try it." After saying this, she proudly set the food in front of Shan as if seeking praise. It was a 7-yuan cafeteria stew, greasy and utterly bland. I could clearly see the disgust on his face. How could the male lead even eat this kind of food, right? In his past life, every meal was a lavish feast. How did he end up eating this stuff every day after being reborn? And the male lead's clothes. A whole outfit costs just a few dozen yuan. In his past life, he wore nothing but the latest luxury brands. But everything the male lead had was brought to him by the female supporting character. Without her, this was the life he was always meant to live. This lifetime just brought him back to his true starting point. After that remark, no one else spoke. The bullet comments had once said, "In my past life, after Shan and I started dating, we never ate at the school cafeteria again. Every meal was either dining out at fancy restaurants or having the butler deliver platters of fresh sashimi to school. As for clothes, we went luxury shopping weekly, returning with a cart filled to the brim each time. Shan hardly ever wore the same outfit twice. He adapted to this lavish lifestyle with startling speed. Day after day, he grew exceedingly picky about food and clothing. Suddenly, returning to mushy cafeteria food made it hard to swallow. Of course, wearing cheap clothes left him feeling utterly uncomfortable. After hesitating for a long time, Shan finally set down his chopsticks. Stammering to Mia Su across the table, he said, "Mia, I need to ask you for a favor." "What favor? Could you lend me 300,000 yuan? Mia Su choked on a piece of tofu, instinctively raising her voice to a sharp cry. "What did you say? You're asking me for 300,000? You eat my food, drink my drinks, still owe me 280 yuan from 2 weeks ago, and now you have the nerve to ask for 300,000? Countless piercing gazes shot toward Shan. I clicked my tongue in disbelief as I listened. His previous life of luxury had truly spoiled Shan's tastes. Mia Su's family background wasn't much better than Shanshan's. How could a student possibly scrape together 300,000 for him? Mia Su was still shrieking. Do you have any idea my parents don't even make 100,000 a year combined? How can a grown man like you have the nerve to ask me for money? You use my meal card to eat at the cafeteria every day, then complain the food is worse than air. Flown fresh delicacies. Your pockets are emptier than your face is clean. Were you eating those delicacies in your dreams? Shan Shun's face flushed red as fire. He couldn't help but grumble. I ended up in this state because of you. Back then, I never spent less than 1,000 per meal. The cheapest wine I drank still cost over 100,000 a bottle. Everyone used to address me respectfully as President Shun. Mia Su laughed as if she'd heard a joke. Shan Shun, do you think I just met you yesterday? Someone who can't even scrape together tuition is daydreaming about being a domineering CEO, living in luxury. Are you suffering from delusions? A wave of mocking laughter erupted around them. This snapped Shan Shin out of his memories of his luxurious past life. He had been reborn for a month now, and had chosen a path completely different from his previous life. What's going on? I came here for the sweet campus romance between the male and female leads, not to watch them argue every day. No money, no sweet romance for you to enjoy. Annoyed, Shan Shin looked up toward the door and suddenly noticed me. Instantly, his posture straightened, his furrowed brows relaxed. A confident smile spread across his face. His gaze toward me held a hint of anticipation, admiring my freshly done manicure. I gracefully walked past Shanshan. The rhinestones on them cost 2,000 yuan each, though the shine could be better. Next time, I should pick some prettier diamonds. Then he lazily glanced at the cafeteria food, frowning with disdain. He called out to Liu Su, "Let's eat outside the school." Liu Su quickly nodded. I walked straight past Shanshan, not even glancing sideways as I headed out of the cafeteria. The confidence on Sean's face crumbled, and after I walked away, he actually abandoned Mia Su and chased after me, shouting, "Jia Jiang, why don't you?" The rest of his words choked in his throat when he caught sight of the Maybach outside the cafeteria. The luxury car was parked ostentatiously on the path leading to the cafeteria. Many classmates cast envious glances, whispering among themselves. Some admired the luxury car's extravagance. Others complained about my wealthy capriciousness. Sean chuckled wryly and sighed. "So, you wanted to surprise me, but I don't like such a high-profile display. Don't do this again." I remembered, in my past life, the male lead drove this very car to find his childhood sweetheart, then died in a car accident, right? In the previous life, this car was gifted to the male lead after graduation. Who would have thought the female antagonist would bring it out early this time around? Our male lead will always belong to the female lead. How could a luxury car possibly sway him? Next comes the glorious moment of humiliation. Shan Shin clearly adored this car. In his past life, he had driven it countless times through the streets of Bay City, turning heads wherever he went. He naturally reached to open the car door, only to be met with a furious glare from the butler in the driver's seat, who snapped, "This car is a gift from our young miss to young master Liu Su. How dare some random upstart try to climb in?" Sean's hand froze in place, as if shocked by electricity, lowering his gaze. The domineering Xiao aura that had faded for half a month suddenly resurged. "Mr. Wang, this car is clearly mine. Have you forgotten even that?" His voice was dangerously low. In the previous life, this car belonged to him, but in this life, I let out a cold laugh, swiftly pulled open the door, and slid into the car with Liu Su, then slammed it shut with a sharp bang. Shan Shin swiftly pulled his hand back, nearly having 4 fingers crushed through the car window. I gave him a disdainful once. "Over. Sean, you really need to break that bad habit of coveting others' belongings. This car is a gift for my boyfriend. What does it have to do with you?" In Shan Shun's eyes, I've always been the arrogant young miss, so my words naturally had to be domineering and merciless. The joy that had just surged in Shan Shun was utterly shattered. His fearful gaze swept over me. Shouldn't this car have been given to me? I drove it for a full 2 years in my past life. His voice was soft, but I heard every word clearly. It's been so long since the rebirth. Still hung up on the past life? The past life he despised had become an unattainable illusion in this one, never to be reclaimed. The barrage comments were also stunned. What's going on? The female supporting character seems to not love the male lead at all anymore. The male lead's rebirth was all for nothing. I was looking forward to seeing the sweet romance between the male and female leads. But wow, they've only confessed their feelings for half a month and already fought 15 times. I also wanted to see the male lead shut down the female antagonist's advances. But who would have thought I'd keep watching him get humiliated instead? You all say young Miss Jiang is pestering Shanshan, but from my perspective, it seems like the male lead is the one clinging to the female antagonist. I shifted my gaze away from the barrage of comments. I am the eldest daughter of the Jiang family. I grew up with a silver spoon in my mouth. How could I possibly chase after a worthless man? Since Sean felt that not confessing to his childhood sweetheart in his past life was a lifelong regret, then in this reborn life, let him fully resolve that regret. The car sped off with a press of the accelerator. From a distance, I saw Mia Su grabbing the male lead by the collar, yelling and arguing fiercely with him, and Sean was still staring blankly at the exhaust fumes, letting her scream and pull at him. I looked away, took out my compact mirror, and complained while touching up my makeup. Mr. Wong, driving the car into the school is too flashy. A few more incidents like this, and the school administration will be calling me in for a talk. Mr. Wong quickly nodded. All right, next time I'll wait for you at the school gate. Young miss, after all, you don't have a boyfriend right now. How about considering the engagement with the Su family that the master mentioned earlier tonight? Sitting in the private room of the bar, I looked down at Liu Su before me. On the way here, I impatiently brushed it off, unwilling to marry a stranger. Mr. Wong said in surprise, but he's not a stranger. You've been close with the Su family's young master for quite some time now. As he said this, Liu Su huddled in the back seat of the car, shrinking into himself like a quail. For people in our social circle, arranged marriages are a foregone conclusion. It has nothing to do with love, only about tying the two families' businesses together to better withstand risks. On my phone, a WeChat message from my father still remained. Sweetie, seeing you get along so well with the Su family's young master puts my mind at ease. If it feels right, get engaged first. If not, we'll move on to the next one until you're satisfied. Right now, I truly feel like a spoiled young miss, arbitrarily picking out a male companion who suits my fancy, living a rather decadent life. Liu Su flusteredly explained to me, Xiao Ji, I just heard you wanted to date a poor student, so I dressed a bit shabbily. But before I could do anything, just as I spotted you in the crowd, you suddenly shoved a black card into my hands and asked me to be your boyfriend. I never expected happiness to come so suddenly. He said he applied to the same university as me just to confess the love he kept hidden in his heart for years. He just never expected that I'd generously take care of him first. Although the process was a bit different, as long as the result is right, that's what matters, I said in a stern tone. So, since you're this wealthy, all our eating, drinking, and fun have been paid for with my black card? He quickly explained, No, I haven't touched a single cent on that black card. When you gave it to me, you didn't tell me the password. Did I not tell you the password? I awkwardly extended 2 fingers to pinch the black card, then sheepishly smiled and tucked it back into my bag. The barrage exploded into chaos, scrolling so densely it was impenetrable. How has the plot changed so much in this reincarnated life? I remember the arranged marriage happening in my past life too, but didn't Jia Jiang use the excuse of having a boyfriend to reject it on the spot? Doesn't the female lead like the male lead, who still can't see it clearly? In this life, Jia Jiang has obviously never liked the male lead. A server pushing a cart of drinks opened the private room door, breaking the awkward silence. Our eyes met. Drinks spilled all over the floor. The other person was first shocked, then flushed with anger. Jia Jiang, what are you two doing here alone together? Shan Shun, wearing a burgundy vest, appeared at the doorway of the private room. The part-time job The barrage mentioned him finding was serving drinks to guests at the bar. Sean's face turned ashen as his gaze swept back and forth between the two of us. He quickly stepped forward and grabbed my wrist. Why were you alone with him? I broke free from his grip. He's my fiancé. Shouldn't I be with him rather than you? Both the Jiang and Su families know we're together. Everyone is happy about it. The words my fiancé hit Sean Shun like a ton of bricks. Even the dimly lit private room couldn't hide his ashen face. After a long pause, he finally slumped in defeat and let out a bitter laugh. Jie Jiang, I know you're with him to spite me. Even with a second chance, fate still ties us together. He turned away, struggling to speak. You win. You really win. I'll agree to be your boyfriend. Wait, I cut him off. Did I even ask you anything? How dare you presume to accept on your own? Sean Shin closed his eyes, as if steeling himself, and laid everything out. Did you know? I've been reborn. In my past life, you pulled out a black card to make me your boyfriend, gave my mom $1 million for her medical bills, and even that Maybach was a gift for me. We were together for 6 years. You had a spoiled temper, but I kept putting up with it. Although I always had Mia Su on my mind in my past life, this rebirth made me see my own heart clearly. I still love you. Sean Shin might not have realized it, but there was a trace of nostalgia in his tone that even he wasn't aware of. The male lead's relationship was quite the profitable venture. You get all that just from dating? Young miss, why not consider me instead? Don't be so strict about gender. In the end, after struggling financially, the male lead started missing the good times with the female supporting character from his past life. It suddenly hit me how clear-headed the female supporting character is. In their past relationship, she only gave him money when he obeyed, never blindly handing over her family's wealth and resources. Now, when the male lead confesses to someone else, she immediately lets go of her feelings without looking back. That last line made everything click for me. So, what Sean Shun held a grudge about in our past life was that I didn't hand over the entire Jiang family fortune to him. In his mind, I should have been meek and submissive, offering up all the Jiang wealth with both hands, then becoming a woman who lived by his mercy. I may be domineering and arrogant, but I'm not brain dead. Even those from families equal to mine wouldn't dare covet my wealth. Yet Sean Shin treated it as his birthright. If he couldn't have it, he'd harbor bitter hatred. I haven't even laid claim to my father's assets yet. What gives him the right to eye them? The atmosphere in the private room grew heavy. Leo Su hesitated before standing up and interjecting. I know the standard setup for climbing the social ladder is a gambling dad, a seriously ill mom, a studious younger sister, and a broken him, but I never expected we've now escalated to competing in mystical advantages. He turned his head toward me, looking pitiful. Xiao Ji, I don't have such a tragic background. My parents are alive and well, and my sister is studying safely abroad. I'm not a reborn person either. No mystical buffs to help me out. Do you think I still have a chance to rise to the top? There's a chance. I patted his shoulder earnestly and told him. In the end, Sean Shun was dragged away by several security guards. Before leaving, he shouted loudly, Jie Jiang, the one you love most is clearly me. You shouldn't be with someone else. We really were together in our past life. Once the marriage alliance was confirmed, both families immediately held an engagement banquet for us. My dad arranged for me to study abroad, majoring in finance. Before parting, he held my hand, reluctant to let go. Sweetie, since it's an arranged marriage, you can't just muddle through at any college anymore. You need to study finance properly. The Jiang family's business will rely on you in the future. I tentatively made a bold request. Dad, how about some cash? Just a small fortune will do. Get lost, just as I thought. I haven't even laid eyes on my dad's wealth yet. How dare Sean Shun try to get his hands on it? On the day I left, Pam Lin cried her heart out. Young miss, how will I survive without you? I plan to serve you and young master until you graduated from college. Boo-hoo, I've paid your tuition and left you some living expenses. Don't go out dressed in rags and embarrass me anymore. Young miss, I truly can't bear to part with you. Haha, I'll definitely repay you after graduation. Oh, and I'll think of you every day. Haha, stop crying. The laughter is too grating. On the day I boarded the plane with my luggage, the long, quiet barrage of comments started flooding in again. Sean Shen has gone mad searching for Jia Jiang. Is he looking for the supporting female character? No, he's looking for a cash cow. Look, he still remembers Jia Jiang's phone number from their past life and is trying to call her. I lowered my head to look at my phone, about to go abroad. Naturally, it's time to change the old number. Sean Shin anxiously waited downstairs at the dormitory for many days. Now, there are financial holes everywhere, and the hospital medication fees can no longer be delayed. After thinking for a long time, he came up with an idea. He could take the initiative to borrow money from Jia Jiang. Naturally, Jia Jiang would surely seize this chance to propose they start dating. After all, in the previous life, when she learned he couldn't afford tuition, Jia Jiang generously pulled out a black card, smiling softly as she asked, "Sean, I can cover your tuition and living expenses, but you'll have to agree to be my boyfriend. Is that okay?" Sean Shin clenched his fist. This time, if Jia Jiang made that request again, he would agree without hesitation. But after waiting for days, he never saw any sign of Jia until an impatient Pamlin told him, "Stop waiting." The day after Jia Jiang got engaged to Liu Su, she went abroad to study. She's not coming back. Sean's ears rang. Engaged? Studying abroad? In their past life, she never got engaged. And studying abroad was out of the question. They'd been together for 6 full years. Through university, shedding their youthful naivety, he had only confessed to Mia Su on the first day after his rebirth. How could things have changed so drastically between his past and present life? Trembling, Sean pulled out his phone and dialed a number etched in his memory. The moment the call connected, a mechanical female voice interrupted his thoughts. "Sorry, the number you have dialed is not in service." Sean Shin froze in place. Jia Jiang's number was disconnected? He double-checked the phone number. It was correct, the same digits etched in his memory for 6 years in his past life. Yet in this life, it had become a dead number. Sean stood there, stunned for a long time, so long that Mia Su shoved him hard from behind. "Sean, pay up. You still owe me that one. 280 yuan for our meal." The childhood friend before him was sharp and bitter, not a trace of the gentleness she'd shown in his past life. Sean wearily rubbed his temples. If on the day he was reborn, he still held affection for his childhood friend, after over a month of harsh reality, only thoughts of Jia Jiang remained in his heart. Now, he had barely over 1,000 yuan left to his name. Money he'd earned from a part-time job at a bar. That amount wasn't even enough to cover medical bills. Sean Shin was about to ask for a few days' grace when a man abruptly grabbed him by the collar. "Damn it, pay back my girlfriend's money now." Sean's head buzzed with another wave of dizziness. Jia Jiang said she had a fiancé. Now, even Mia Su had found another boyfriend. It felt as if the world had hit fast forward, everything moving at an unbelievable pace. He glanced at the man before him and miraculously recognized him, the same man from the wedding photo Mia had shared in their group chat in his previous life. It was the same person. In this life, because Mia had to work due to lack of money, she had met this man 4 years earlier. Round and round it went. His rebirth had led both Jia and Mia to encounter their love sooner. After numbly handing over the little money he had, Mia gave a cold snort, linked arms with the man, and walked away. His phone rang. Sean eagerly pulled it out, but upon seeing it wasn't Jia's number, answered despondently. An elderly woman's voice came through. "Xiaosu, the hospital is pressing Mom for the medical fees. You need to figure something out, quickly." Irritation surged in his heart, tearing at his already fragile spirit. All the troubles since his rebirth had left him utterly overwhelmed. Sean Shin snapped angrily into the phone. "Can't you figure out yourself if you have no money? Other parents support their children. Why do you always trail behind me begging for cash? Look at Jia Jiang. Her parents give her hundreds of thousands in pocket money every month. What about you?" From the other end of the line came stifled sobs and endless, weary complaints. "My fault is so bitter. raising such an unfilial son. You haven't visited me at the hospital in over a month, and now you won't pay a single cent. Sean decisively ended the call. He then scanned a shared bike to ride. All along the way, he kept reassuring himself. Jia Jiang still cared about him. She wouldn't just get engaged and go abroad without a word. Maybe she was hiding because she was upset about his confession to Mia Su. Just find her, offer her a way out, and say a few soft words. This life would repeat the path of the last one. They would still end up together. Once he became Jia Zhang's boyfriend, he'd never have to worry about money again. Sean Shun remembered the location of Jia Zhang's mansion like the back of his hand. In his past life, he had lived there for 2 years and knew every flower and tree intimately. But in this life, the butler stopped him with a guarded expression. This is private property. You can't just enter. In his panic, Sean blurred the lines between past and present. I'm Jia Zhang's boyfriend. I lived here for 2 years. Don't you remember me? The butler looked him up and down and sneered. You didn't even do your homework before trying to climb the social ladder. Our young miss just got engaged to the Su family's young master, and they've gone abroad to study. Where did this boyfriend come from? Engaged, gone abroad. Sean's blood ran cold. Did Jia Jiang really leave without even saying goodbye? Did she not love him anymore? The phone rang again abruptly, insistently piercing the silence. It was an unfamiliar number. Sean Shun's eyes lit up, trembling. He answered the call, then slowly slumped powerlessly to the ground. A cold female voice came through the phone. Mr. Shen, your mother's medication has been discontinued. Please promptly settle the outstanding medical fees. The days studying abroad passed swiftly. Sean Shin felt like an insignificant passerby in my life. He made a grand entrance, only to vanish without a trace. Yet I knew his recent years all too clearly. The bullet comments periodically updated his situation, forcing his presence into my vibrant life. The childhood sweetheart he once pined for in his past life broke up with him decisively. Fate intervened, and he reunited with his lover from the previous life. Their romance blazed passionately. His mother, unable to afford medical treatment, soon passed away. On her deathbed in the hospital, she cursed him for raising an ungrateful son, leaving Sean all alone, transformed from a pampered young master into a model worker juggling 3 time jobs between classes. Even so, he was still strapped for cash. The enormous debt weighed heavily on him, leaving him breathless. In his 2nd year of university, Shanshin chose to drop out. Thus began his long, exhausting struggle to make ends meet. While working odd jobs, he never stopped trying to find out where I was. Unfortunately, we were separated by thousands of miles. The cost of such a long journey and living expenses abroad were far beyond what he could save from his part. Time work. It wasn't until 4 years later, when I completed my studies, that on my first day back from studying abroad, I gazed upon the long, unseen Bay City and received a call from Pam Lin. Young miss, the school is organizing a class reunion. Would you like to come? Pam Lin had shed her former sallow, gaunt appearance. She had transformed into a capable career woman, gaining experience at a domestic subsidiary under my name. She rushed forward to hug me dramatically, exclaiming excitedly, "Young miss, it's been years since I last saw you. Do you have any idea how much I've missed you? Young miss, why are you frowning? If something's troubling you, tell me. This old servant will share your burden." I rubbed my temples. The company has overseas operations, but currently can't find the right person for long-term overseas assignments. Pam Lin perked up and volunteered herself. What a coincidence. I'm practically the chosen one for overseas postings. It suddenly occurred to me. Pam had once told me, after her parents and younger brother found out she'd landed a job at a big company, they hounded her relentlessly, constantly scheming to get money from her. To avoid them, Pam hadn't returned home in years. Looking at it that way, wasn't she indeed the chosen one for overseas assignments? After resolving my biggest worry, I finally let out a long sigh of relief. I hadn't spent much time with these classmates. In the entire class, the only one I was truly familiar with was Pam Lin. Just before the reunion began, Someone arrived fashionably late. He pushed the door open, bringing with him an air of travel and fatigue. Sean Shun had arrived. Sean and I were only in the same department, not exactly classmates. His sudden, unannounced entrance was somewhat surprising. Curious eyes gathered on him from all around. I could hardly recognize him. He is now about the same age as when he died in a car accident in his previous life. I recall the bullet comments mentioning that in his past life, he lived in luxury and never worked a single day. Every gesture he made exuded an elegant, noble air. It was hard to connect that image with the weary young man before me. The bullet comments, absent for a long time, began to scroll again. I almost didn't recognize the male lead. Upstairs. This isn't the male lead anymore. He's a supporting character. No, not even that. More like an extra. You can tell Sean Shun is truly poor. It's been almost 6 years since his rebirth, and he's failed repeatedly in his ventures. He keeps boasting about once being CEO Shun and has been fired countless times. No wonder he's broke, yet he's still picky about food, often muttering about how he used to dine on delicacies. I can't even imagine how poor he is. Maybe, probably, stuck in a cramped 100 square meter duplex, eating bland 4-dish, 1 soup meals every day, then standing gloomily on the balcony, overlooking the dazzling river view. Come to think of it, he really is living a pitiful life. Sean Shun had clearly put effort into his appearance, but the furrow between his brows betrayed his constant anxiety. He barely dared to look at me, yet mustered the courage to step forward and whisper, "Jie Jiang, I heard your class reunion was happening and you'd be here, so I wanted to see you. Have you been well all these years?" The reunion was filled with people I hardly knew. I stood up, politely bid everyone farewell, and walked past Sean Shun. He stubbornly chased after me. Outside the hotel, heavy rain poured down. I stood by the roadside, holding an umbrella. Sean Shun stood in the rain, drenched and disheveled. His lips trembled a few times before he finally spoke. Knowing the answer, yet clinging to a sliver of hope, he tentatively asked me, "Jie Jiang, do you still love me?" I turned my head and smiled distantly. "Mr. Shin, perhaps you should think carefully. It seems we never truly knew each other. How can we even speak of love? As you wish. In this life, you never accepted that initial black card. And I never had any connection with you whatsoever. From beginning to end, we have always been strangers." After I gave my definitive answer, a few bullet comments appeared at the edge of the sky, but they grew fainter and fainter, a sign that they were about to vanish completely. Truth be told, the young miss was never a love-struck fool, even in her past life. She wasn't foolish enough to sacrifice any core interests. Do you think the young miss can imagine what kind of life Sean Shen is living now? She must be able to, right? That was close. I almost let Sean Shen live a life of freeloading with arrogance. After being reborn, Sean Shen finally began living the life he was always meant to live. The bullet comments vanished completely. The Sean Shen before my eyes visibly fell into despair. He clutched his head, overwhelmed with agony. I was wrong. The moment I was reborn, you had never even spoken a word to me. Yet I severed the bond between us with my own hands. Xiao Ji, in my past life, I called you Xiao Ji for a full 6 years. How did it come to this? How could I lose the most important person in my life? Xiao Ji, you know, I always wanted to go abroad to find you, but no matter how hard I worked all these years, I couldn't save enough for a round-trip ticket overseas, let alone the money to live there for half a year. In my past life, this amount was just the cost of a bottle of red wine. How could it? On his face, it was unclear whether it was rain or tears streaming down. Headlights flashed in this direction. A Maybach pulled up beside me. The door opened, and Leo Su stepped out holding an umbrella. After taking the Himalaya bag from my hand, he glanced behind me and said in surprise, "Xiao Ji, isn't this that reborn broken guy? Has the latest update for his rise to power strategy added a rainy day suffer to gain sympathy act?" He drooped his eyes and said, "Xiao Ji, I may not have a broken family or mystical backing, but I can improvise a suffer to gain sympathy, performance right here, right now. The black card that Sean Shin couldn't wait to push away when he returned reborn in his past life became the foundation for the strange fate between Leo Sue and me in this life. I teased with a laugh. You don't need to play the martyr to climb the ladder. Side story, Sean Shen. I learned about Jia Zhang's marriage from the news. When I heard the news, I was curled up in a cramped rented attic, idly scrolling through my phone. Takeout containers and drink bottles piled up beside me. These cheap junk foods I wouldn't have glanced at in my past life had become my daily sustenance. Jia's radiant smiling face suddenly appeared before me, still the dazzling young miss of the Jiang family, her every movement exuding an unmistakable nobility and ease. The news spelled out clearly. She was set to marry the son of the Su family. Their second joint development project would soon launch on the market. I stared at Jia's smiling face, lost in thought. Our social classes were too far apart. A handbag she bought on a whim cost more than I could save in 10 years apart. Time work, on the streets of Bay City. It was almost certain we'd never cross paths again. The most despairing part was that I could only learn about her through the news. In these years since my rebirth, I had not been without thoughts of starting a business. I sought out the bosses I had successfully collaborated with in my previous life, but they all firmly turned me away. Only one, after hearing my earnest promises of profitability, impatiently pointed me in the right direction. Mr. Shin, anyone can make money from this venture. So, who do you think is truly suited to take it on? It suddenly dawned on me. My smooth entrepreneurial journey in my past life wasn't due to my intelligence or business genius. It was because I had the Jiang family backing me. It was Jia Jiang paving the way behind the scenes. What had I done back then? I bristled with defensiveness at every turn, trying to mask my deep-seated insecurities. All those years I endured her young mistemper. She, in turn, had been meticulously safeguarding my pride at every step. I took one last look at the news of Jia Zhang's marriage. A bold idea began to take shape. I'm going to stop her wedding. This thought sets my blood boiling. Perhaps she'll suddenly remember me, suddenly fall in love with me. Perhaps we can return to the love we shared in our past life. Side story, Sean Shen. The car sped down the street. It was a second-hand car I'd scrimped and saved to buy. Over 30,000 yuan. It drained a year's worth of my savings. It was nowhere near as comfortable as the Maybach from my past life. When that Maybach flashed through my mind, my heart jolted in shock. Today's scenes seemed to overlap with that of my past life. In my past life, I stood on the balcony of the Jiang family villa, learning from a class group chat that Mia Su was getting married. I was just as frantic and impulsive then. The Maybach raced down the road, accelerator pressed to the floor. Back then, only one thought filled my mind: to stop Mia Su's wedding. I instinctively glanced at the time, March 18th, the day Mia Su got married in her previous life. Also the day Jia Jiang was getting married in this life. In an instant, my blood ran cold. Crash. Distracted for just a few seconds, the car veered off course and slammed into the guardrail. In the moment before losing consciousness, I actually smiled with relief. If I could be reborn again at 18, the first thing I do upon opening my eyes is take that black card. When Jia Jiang asks if I'd be willing to be her boyfriend, I'll hold her tight and declare loudly, Jia Jiang, I do. Side story, Sean Shen. When I woke again, a snow-white ceiling filled my vision, along with the pungent smell of disinfectant. I struggled to sit up. No Jia Jiang, no school. I grabbed the white coat beside me and asked anxiously, Doctor, have I been reborn? What day is it today? The doctor gave me a complicated look, then said to the nurse behind him, let's get another CT scan for him. Hitting his head on the steering wheel might cause blood clots that compress the brain, leading to confusion. My face reflected on the smooth surface of the machine. Young, yet weathered and exhausted. It was me, with nothing to my name. I picked up the cracked screen phone beside me, feeling dejected. Jia Zhang's wedding was shared all over the internet. Everyone marveled at this extravagant, once-in-a-century wedding, noting how every detail screamed money is no object. What struck them even more was that true love could exist in a marriage of convenience between wealthy families. During the years Jia Jiang studied abroad, her fiancé, who wasn't even in the same country, flew to Europe twice every month. Without fail, the stack of flight tickets grew thick, becoming a testament to their love. I set down the phone, feeling desolate. Jia Jiang was married. Mia Su was married too, and to the same person as in her past life. Only I was left behind, lost and not knowing what to do. On the day I was discharged from the hospital, I unexpectedly ran into Jia Jiang at the hospital. She was wearing a low-key Chanel suit. Arm in arm with her husband, she stood out in the crowd, glowing with beauty. Leaning on my crutch, I desperately chased after her and called out from behind, "Jia Jiang." She turned around. I waited with bated breath, hardly daring to blink, afraid I might miss any expression on her face. Her gaze lingered on me for a moment. Then she looked away thoughtfully, as if puzzled. She didn't recognize me. Those 6 years we were in love. Those 6 years when I soared to success and lived in luxury. Now, only I remember them.